what I primarily want to talk about in this video is skill training. If you're a brand new player, you probably have no idea what skills to train. So just click on my character sheet there, and we're going to discuss skill training. To start with, I want to talk about some of the aspects of the skill area of the character sheet. So if you have a skill which has squares in it like that, that's an active skill that you can train. All you have to do is drag the skill into the skill queue and it will start training. If on the other hand you have a skill which is shown by pips, that's a skill which I can get, but I don't currently have the skill book for it and I would have to buy that. So for example, Galente frigate here, I can buy and train. It will cost me 65,000 ISK to buy the skill book, and then it will appear like this as boxes and I will be able to drag it into the skill queue and start training it. It will not give me any ranks purchasing the book, it just gives me the ability to train it. And then lastly, if you have these yellow pips, you can only train those if you have Omega status. So for example, mining frigate I can train to rank 4, but I cannot train rank 5 because I would have to be an Omega. And or industrial I can't train at all because I would have to be Omega status to do that. So in the training queue basically works as a 24-hour queue for an alpha character. Omega, I think it's about 50 days or something. But for an alpha character, it's 24 hours. So you can put as many skills as you want in that skill queue up until such time as there are 24 hours of training in there. As soon as you've gone over that, you won't be able to add anything else into the training queue. So just as an example here, let's say I did want to train mining frigate, which I don't, but let's say I did. If I try to drag this in here, you can see that my training queue is already at 1 day 13 hours. So let's just see what happens. I get a box popping up saying it doesn't fit into the training queue. So I can, however, if I wanted to, I could drag it in between these two skills. So I can drag it there and it gets added to the queue, and that's because it hasn't sequentially reached 24 hours. We've got 2 hours 5, we've got another 2 hours 30. I could keep popping skills in there, and it's only when I get to that last skill that it will stop. And so that skill can be at any length. I can train a 9-day skill if I want to at that point, but it's limited in that way. So I'm going to take this out because I don't want to train mining frigates. So the other thing is to make sure that your skill queue is training, and that means that these arrows should be moving here to show you that you're actually training skills. You will train at 1x speed. If you're an Omega clone, you will train at double speed and of course have access to all of these skills. Let's move on to the actual discussion about what skills you should train. So there is something called the Magic 14, which is a set of skills which are so useful that it doesn't matter what you're doing, you will always want to have these skills. You'll find this all over the place talked about. I'm going to take you through the Magic 14 and show you what they are. You should train all of these skills up to maximum, and then from there you can look at training other skills. So to start with, we'll start in the engineering category. We start with CPU management. Very important skill, especially as you get up into larger ships where you need to fit more powerful and expensive modules. You'll find that it's easy to run out of CPU. So having that trained to level 5, very important. You'll also want power grid management trained to maximum as well. And the other two skills in the engineering category that you will want are capacitor management, which can be trained to maximum of rank 4 for an alpha, and capacitor systems operation, which is already by default trained to the maximum for an alpha. The next section is armor skills, and it doesn't matter whether you're armor tanking or shield tanking, you're going to want these skills, and they are mechanics and hull upgrades. They both benefit regardless of the type of tanking that you are trying to do. And then in shields, you will want shield management trained to max, and then this is the only skill on the Magic 14 that you don't actually have to start with as an alpha character. You'll have to buy the skill book. It is shield operation. It'll cost you 71,500 ISK, but you will want to train that to max as well. We move on to targeting skills, and as you can see, I've already trained them up, but you'll want long range targeting and signature analysis up to max. In navigation, and you can see that I've trained these up already as well, you will want navigation to max, evasive maneuvering up to max, and warp drive operation up to max. And then the last skill is in spaceship command, and it is in fact called spaceship command, which I've already trained up as well to max. So those are the Magic 14. Train them up, they will serve you well. From there, you can then start to specialize into particular areas that you want. It does depend largely on what you want to get into, but presuming that some kind of combat skills are on your agenda, then I'll talk about those combat skills so that you can make some decisions. So the first thing is that you'll want to decide whether or not you're going to armor or shield tank. Generally, you're going to want to do one or the other. You will probably end up developing both skills at some point in time, but it's good to focus on one and be particularly good at that. And this will be dependent upon the ship builds that you want to use, and as a new player you'll have no idea about what they are, but a good place to start is with your suggested racial defensive orientation. And so what that means is that if you are an Amar or a Gallente character, you will probably focus on armor skills. They have ships that are more geared towards armor and armor focus. And if you are a Caldari or Minmatar character, you'll probably focus on shields. Minmatar, you can kind of go either way, and in fact with any character you can choose any type of focus that you like. There's not really a limitation, but certain ships will provide certain bonuses, and it's best to align what you're doing to get the best benefit that you can from the ships that you are flying. So next we move on to talking about weapons, and there's a whole bunch of different weapons in the game, and each race specializes in two weapon types. They have a primary and a secondary weapon type that they use, and so unless you have a really solid idea about what you want to do, I would suggest that you focus on the weapon types for your race. So let's just go through those. If you're an Amar character, your main focus will be on energy weapons. So that's small energy turrets, medium energy turrets, large energy turrets. And you'll also want to maximize controlled bursts because energy turrets use a lot of capacitor power. The secondary weapon system for Amar is drones, and you'll want to get good at using those. If you have a Gallente character, some would say that your primary weapon type is hybrid turrets, but in reality I think that most people would probably really acknowledge that drones are the major draw card for the Gallente race, and maximizing your drone skills, and there are a lot of them in there. Just so that you can see, I can show you all of the drone skills available, and there are quite a number of them. So this, as an aside, allows you to view different sets of skills. I prefer to keep it at the ones I have prerequisites for. For Galente, your secondary type of weapon would be hybrid turrets. If you are a Caldari character, your primary weapon type will be missiles, and they have quite a different functioning, quite a different feel to use than using gunnery oriented systems. And the secondary weapon type for Caldari is hybrid turrets. If you're a Minmatar like this character, your primary weapon type is going to be projectile turrets, and then your secondary weapon type will be missiles. And so with this character, I am going to quite simply focus on projectile turret skills because I intend on this character doing some brawling. And that is really one of the biggest questions to ask yourself in terms of the types of weapons that you want to skill up in, is what type of fighting do you want to do? And there are two really main types of combat that you can engage in. There's brawling, where you use extremely high power, fast tracking weapons up close. You get in your enemy's face and you blast the living shit out of them. The second type is called kiting, where you keep your distance from your enemy and you use very long range weapons to reach out and touch them. And so if you have a specific orientation that you're going for, then choose your weapons and your weapon skills based upon that focus. So missiles and drones can tend to be very, very long range, and generally your turret-oriented gunnery weapons are closer range, close to mid sort of range. Although you can get, obviously, there's weapons like artillery weapons, which can be very long ranged as well, and they fall under this kind of this type of thing under here, under the gunnery skills. So that's combat skills. The final type of skill sets that you might be wanting to train up in for EVE are more specialist career-oriented skills. Now, one area that is generally useful for everybody to have is to have some trade skills, because no matter what you do, you are going to have to sell stuff in EVE. EVE is a game of mass capitalism, where you acquire things, you're going to buy lots of stuff, and you're going to be selling heaps of stuff, and you want to maximize the profits that you're going to get from the things that you sell. And so having some trade skills can be useful. In a more specific career focus, a lot of people like to get into mining. It's not my personal thing, but if you want to get into mining, you actually start with mining 3. You could train mining and then some of its related skills for reprocessing ore and so on. You can get into industry, which is producing products using blueprints. And so there are a bunch of skills that can be used to optimize that. And then the other area, one of my personal favorites, is exploration. And training up these skills if you want to get into scanning down relic and data sites and running those sites. So there's a bunch of other stuff, but you're really not, as an alpha, really equipped to be dealing with planetary management, structure management. You can see that all these skills are all yellow skills for you. Fleet support, being a fleet commander. These are really for more advanced Omega characters. So any of these activities you are a bit limited in as an alpha. You can see there's only a certain level that you can take the skills to. It doesn't mean you can't make money. You certainly can make good money doing these things, and a lot of people get into mining. It's a very Care Bear activity, mining in high sec. If you're a danger mouse, you know, go out and do some gas mining in wormholes. It's a little bit more exciting. You can get gas cloud harvesting as an alpha character. It is not cheap though. It's 39 million ISK to buy the skill book for that. But that can be a very lucrative mining activity and also a dangerous one as well. So that is a very basic rundown of the skill training. If you start training the Magic 14, hopefully by the time they have exhausted, you will have gone through the career agent missions. You'll have a bit of an idea about what each career offers, and hopefully something will have caught your eye and you will know the direction that you want to go in. And I would suggest that you don't try and do too many different things to begin with. Pick one or two things and focus on those things and doing those well. Okay, so that's the wrap up for this episode here. From now on, we're going to get out and we're actually going to do some stuff in EVE and try and make a little bit of money. So that's signing off for me. Fly safe, and I'll see you out there amongst the stars. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by donating Plex in-game using your Plex Vault. If you are not able to give Plex, you can donate ISK. If you do donate, please make sure to flick me an EVE mail and make your donations to Exalted. That's EXZOLTED. Thanks.